This is TWiT.
Tomorrow is the day. I haven't talked a whole lot about net neutrality. I've seen protests on the net. Reddit, when you go to Reddit, has a big thing, and a few other sites put up a don't forget to call your Congress critter and all that. I feel like it's over because there's no way, no matter what we do, we already got more than 1 million comments in favor of net neutrality, and the FCC just goes, yeah, right, never mind. Who cares what you think? Why should...
Not only do we have all these comments in favor of keeping net neutrality, we also have evidence of fraud that they're like, we don't care.
We don't care. They literally don't care. and incidentally, just to add insult to injury, because remember, one of the things the FCC will do probably tomorrow is hand over all enforcement of net neutrality, a job it really should be its job, Federal Communications Commission, to the Federal Trade Commission.
And then the FTC says, what?
Yeah.
Huh?
Federal Trade Commissioner Terrell McSweeney has repeatedly warned that her organization is not able to do the job. She actually wrote an article and says, quote, the FTC does not have specialized expertise in telecommunications. Well, duh. We don't have engineers with technical experience in data network management practices. We don't even have jurisdiction over common carriers. These are very real and significant limits to the effectiveness of our tools, ensuring that networks are open and free of harmful discrimination. Which would explain to me exactly why Ajit Pai wants to give it to the FTC. There will be no enforcement.
Right.
The thing about this is that...
Go ahead, Stacey.
I was going to say it'll be purely deceptive trade practices, anti-competitive, and those things are hard to prove. And even under net neutrality, there was a method for people to call that in and fight that, and it takes a long time. This is just...
Oh, it's frustrating. Canada has gotten into the act. Apparently, a Canadian government official said that net neutrality has become an issue in the NAFTA negotiations, or it isn't really the NAFTA negotiations, but the negotiations over the replacement for the North American Free Trade Agreement. Yeah, the Trump negotiations. Canada's lead NAFTA negotiator, Steve Verhul, said to a parliamentary committee this week, we're including provisions like online consumer protection to ensure that it's provided for, and that we also have provisions to provide personal information protection, which we feel is essential in this kind of trade, along with our position that we want to protect net neutrality when it comes to digital trade. He says the U.S. negotiating team is focused on trying to get Canada to accept our version of intermediary protections online, where ISPs and third parties like Facebook cannot be held legally responsible for the behavior of their customers. But Canadians prefer to leave the issue to the courts and out of a trade agreement. He says, Verhul says, U.S. negotiating team has not reacted positively to the Canadian pushback on net neutrality.
All right, let me say a couple things, if I may.
Yes, man.
One, University of Maryland poll out, I think yesterday, said that 83% of Americans are in favor of keeping net neutrality. So this is by no means a political decision, just like the tax bill, I would argue, but especially here. The people don't want the 79% of Republicans want to keep net neutrality. This is an oligopoly. This is big companies ruling the country. And I'm sounding like I'm, Bernie. I'm not. I'm a middle of the road guy in so many ways. But this is an indication of undemocratic governance. Point one. Point two. Ajit Pai is saying he has absolutely zero. He's not consistent in any way in his philosophy. He doesn't have any philosophy. So just like on the one hand, the government is saying no CNN merger, but go ahead, Tribune buy Tronc. In this case, Ajit Pai is saying the phone companies and the ISPs should be able to do whatever they want, whatever the heck they want. That's fine. However, then he turns around the next breath and he told Tucker Carlson last night that there ought to be a law, investigation or something, stopping Facebook and Google from disadvantaging conservative content. Well, free speech is includes the right to edit, includes the right to say what's hate speech and not to have that on your platform. But that's the meme that's being put out there. And there's no consistency in any way between those two things.
A guy named Jeff Jarvis on MSNBC said it all. He said, this is all about enabling the oligopoly of cable and the telephone to control the net.
See a tie.
Yeah.
Tie.
Look
for those of you listening, I have a tie.
He's wearing a black suit and tie. And
you look much nicer.
Hey.
Well,
hey.
You dress up for Stephanie Rule. You say, yeah, Stephanie, yeah. By the way, she calls you one of her favorites.
Fave, I think it was.
Fave, one of our faves. I almost don't want to bring this up because I don't think we can influence the vote at this point. I don't think there's much we can do about it. What should we do? You
call your Congress critter.
And should.
You could. And you should because there was a Republican congressman who came out against it. So there's a couple things. After this vote repeals it, then the process will happen again. We could have a lawsuit. We could find another case. You can also expect, it's possible that it's a shame no one got Trump upset over this. And so Trump could tweet, I want the net to stay free. Because then, Ajit Pai would have to go around. There's not a lot to do.
No, but you can do what the internet pioneers did. They wrote a letter.
Scathing letter to members of the House and Senate. We are writing to respectfully urge you to call on FCC Chairman Ajit Pai to cancel the December 14th vote. We are the pioneers and technologists who created and now operate the internet, including Vince Cerf, Steve Wozniak, Paul Vixie, Stephen Wolf, Ron Rivest. These are names you all know. Ted Nelson, Susan Landau, Brewster Kahle. These are the Whitfield Diffie, Vinton Cerf, the father of the internet, Tim Berners-Lee, the creator of the World Wide Web, Steve Bellevin.
Who tweeted yesterday that net neutrality is what enabled him to invent the web. He needed a permissionless environment.
Thank you. So people who say, oh, you guys are out of touch, we don't need net neutrality, we don't want more government regulation. Okay, don't believe us. But do you believe the people who invented and run today's internet? Do you believe them? Because they seem unanimous. This is a list of who's who.
Boy, is it.
Unanimous in their contempt for what is happening tomorrow.